What's up guys, JB2017 here, and today I'm sharing my top 5 games of E3 2016. I was so fortunate to attend the convention this year, and I saw some incredible games, so I wanted to share my experience with you all. Out of the 20 or so games that I demoed or had a private showing of, these are the games that I was most impressed by and I'm most excited to play once they come out. I will be releasing extended impressions for each of these individual games on my channel over the next week, so stay tuned for that. Also, quick note for those of you wondering, there will be a Fallout 4 video coming out later today, so don't worry about that either. At number 5, I have Civilization VI, and I was able to see a private showing at the 2K booth for media. It was a really cool presentation, about 13 minutes long, narrated by Sean Bean himself, which is Ned Stark in Game of Thrones or Boromir in Lord of the Rings, a pretty famous actor. They were able to narrate kind of the intro and also this really cool presentation. And this is gameplay that's kind of been floating around, and also it's on a lot of live streams from E3, so you'll be able to see the exact same gameplay. But a lot of people are saying that Civilization VI looks like a mobile game and they don't really like the art style, and I don't think those people have actually seen the game in its highest resolution. It looks incredible. I actually really dig the art style for this game. It has a ton more detail. You're able to scroll in a lot closer and see individual houses and whatnot, and also there are day and night cycles, which are really cool and feel like they really should have been there in the first place. It just makes sense. And some of the really awesome new features that I'm excited for are cities actually sprawling outwards instead of just sticking on one tile and kind of piling upwards. You know, before that was the case and you had to build mines and other buildings outside on separate tiles, farms and whatnot, but now the cities themselves actually sprawl outwards as they grow. You'll see little houses dotting, and then of course once you progress through time, they will turn into actual buildings and industrial sites and stuff like that, and I think that's a really cool addition. Also, builder units, you know, they're not going to be something that you automatically just automate the entire time. They're now going to have charges, and they'll disappear after a certain amount of uses instead of just living on forever and being automated. They want to take some of that automation out of the game, and I really appreciate that change too. You can also create districts, and so you can actually zone off certain tiles within your city to specify what kind of improvements you want there. So for example, you have the theater and arts district. Obviously that's going to help the culture for, you know, your civ and that, you know, city specifically. You'll have a military district where you can create barracks, and that'll provide certain improvements. I'm sure there are a lot more districts, but those are the ones that they showed off so far, and I really enjoy that kind of idea. A lot more city planning going on with this, you know, civ. And so the new animated leaders are also really cool. They're more interactive than they were before. They will also have a historical agenda in each match that will influence interaction and decisions with those leaders. So for example, they had Teddy Roosevelt. They wanted to bring in some big personalities for the leaders instead of just doing, you know, plain old Lincoln or, you know, George Washington for America. They chose Teddy Roosevelt, a big personality obviously, and he'll use his big stick agenda and always have a large army ready to fight whenever necessary. And so those are the things you can kind of expect, and I really like the, you know, animation and animated feel of those leaders. And so this game is launching on October 21st of this year, 2016, on PC. I love Civ. I have around 300 hours on Civ 5 on my PC with all of the DLC included, and so really looking forward to this game. At number 4 is the new God of War, and I saw this in a theater in the PlayStation area at E3 in the conference center, and the developer described the game as a new beginning and a new chapter for Kratos, and he's quoted as saying it's a new mythology with, you know, the Norse mythology, and it's all about Kratos struggling to be a father. And with being a father, of course, he's got a really bloody past and whatnot. We know that it takes place after the events of God of War 3, and I don't think that Santa Monica Studio has claimed that it's a reboot or an alternate history. It's just kind of what's next for Kratos. And what I saw beyond that was pretty much the same, you know, from the Sony press conference, which you guys saw, if you were able to watch that, the full unedited gameplay with no cutscenes. That's something they also emphasized the developers did when I was actually inside of the theater watching it once again. And so gameplay seems to be centered around Kratos' son. There's specific gameplay mechanics that are designed specifically for his son, and I think that's an interesting kind of choice, and that seems to be the direction that this game is going towards. And also, they specifically said that the camera is closer to Kratos so that he can see his son more clearly, as in the past it was kind of up and, you know, a really far back third person. Now it's more like second person, if that makes sense, and it's closer so you can actually see his son. And the game has also been called a father-son adventure. I don't know if the studio is called it that or that's just a media kind of tagline, But that worried me at first because I'm a huge fan of God of War, having played all the console mainline games, all the hacking and slashing and super ultra violence. But I definitely support this new direction. I really dig the Norse mythology. I think they can do a lot of cool stuff with it. I definitely trust this studio to, put out a really good game because they always do every single time with God of War. And I just hope that we see some of that ultra violent, really gritty combat from the previous games in the series somewhere in there. I don't want it to just be me and my son the entire time and, there's no combat for Kratos. I'm sure that's not how it's going to be. That was just kind of a set piece to show off the game. But right now, the game has no release date yet, but it will be a PlayStation exclusive, I'm sure, and I'm hoping it'll come out next year, sometime next year, maybe holiday. Maybe it'll get pushed back to spring 2018. Hopefully not, crossing my fingers. But I really enjoyed the game. Definitely going to play it when it comes out. And number 3 is Battlefield 1, and I got to play 20v20 multiplayer in their booth. It was really, really cool. I didn't have to wait that long either. It was really an enjoyable experience. I think that DICE and EA really nailed the World War I look and feel of this game. It's a setting that you don't see a lot in games because World War II, really overshadowed World War I, and especially so in video games. You don't get a lot of World War I games, and so it was really cool to play in that setting. Of course, the gameplay was super smooth, as you would expect from a Battlefield game. There are 4 standard classes I got to play around with. First was the Assault, pretty much what you would expect, but there's no medic on the Assault. There's actually a separate medic class, and so Assault is kind of close-range combat with assault rifles, submachine guns, and shotguns, which was really cool. The medic was all about not bolt action, but semi-auto rifles like the Gewehr, for example, but also can heal. So that's what the medic was about. The support was, big heavy weapons like, light machine guns, heavy machine guns, stuff like that. And then the scout. So the scout is actually the sniper. And so the snipers have bolt action rifles that they can use and lots of variety there. There's also 2 vehicle classes this time around. The tank commander, so you can spawn directly into a tank as the tank commander, or a pilot, obviously, spawning into one of the World War I planes. My experience from playing the multiplayer, unfortunately, was not so great. I went 12-5, but we lost because nobody on my team was actually going towards the objective. Of course, as an objective player, I was kind of annoyed by that, but this game is really what you can expect from the franchise in Battlefield. It's just in a new, fresh setting with a great presentation and polish, and the dynamic weather effects were crazy. Just at any time, the weather can change, just like that. It can start raining, it can start being really foggy and overcast. We were in France on the multiplayer map that I played on, and I'm definitely going to play this game. It's got great presentation, polish. It'll actually get me back into military shooters, which I haven't been playing, for a while now. Fortunately, it releases in October 21st of 2016, just 4 months away from now on Xbox One, PS4, and PC. And number 2 is For Honor, and this was a game that was teased last year and a lot of people were excited about. We didn't hear anything until right at this moment at E3 2016, and I got to play a campaign mission demo as the Templar class, and there are 3 classes in the game, as I'm sure you guys know: the Samurai, the Templar, and the Viking. And as the Templar, I led my men to defend against a siege against another, group of Templars, and it was really just Templar versus Templar, and there were a lot of, pretty much the gameplay mechanics where you would come across a lot of just lousy soldiers that were way smaller than your character that you could just swipe down easily and defeat, but then you came across actually trained knights, and that's when you would engage in this one-on-one melee combat system. And I learned that combat system going through, kind of a demo that taught me exactly what I needed to do, and I found it surprisingly intuitive and extremely fun and refreshing. You just use the right stick to kind of shift your sword and to block in certain directions, and it was really just snappy and quick to pick up and really fun. We asked the developer there if there was going to be loadouts for the game, because it seems like there was going to be. In fact, it showed loadouts, but each of them were just different cosmetic decisions that you could, didn't actually impact the game. But we asked if there would be loadouts with different weapons and armor in the real game, and she just smiled and said nothing. And so we kind of took that as, yes, there's probably going to be really extensive loadouts, different kinds of armor. Maybe they provide more protection. Maybe there's cosmetic. Or, we could equip our Templar, instead of with just a big long sword and no shield, actually, one sword in one hand and a shield in another. That would be pretty awesome. But overall, I was just blown away by the presentation of the game. By the end, I had kind of a one-on-one trial by combat with this tough guy. And by then, I felt like I was equipped with all the stuff that I was just taught in the last 10 minutes to defeat this guy. I ended up defeating him and just chopping his head clean off. There was an execution, and it was just incredible, really unique. I think this is my number 2 simply because I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did, and I can see myself having a ton of fun playing multiplayer with my buddies, just a squad of Templars or Vikings or Samurai, just going at it in the multiplayer of the game. We didn't see any multiplayer, it was just a campaign demo, but it's really beautiful to look at, the game is, and it's very fun, very unique to play. It releases on Xbox One, PS4, and PC on February 14th of 2017, Valentine's Day of next year. My number 1 game of E3 was Mafia III, and I got a private media showing once again at the 2K booth, just like Civilization. And once I stepped in there, once they started, I instantly fell in love with the presentation of the game. They had Vietnam War era music playing with some real attitude and sense of atmosphere. It really felt like the one true period piece game out of anything that I saw. We had a commentated demo from the devs at Hangar 13 that explained the background of the main character, Lincoln Clay, who's a Vietnam War vet whose mob family that he kind of, created after the war was betrayed, and he had this really bad injury. Basically, he's trying to build himself back up. He has these 3 underbosses that all have personal vendettas against the same guy that betrayed Lincoln. So they all have this kind of motive of vengeance and getting revenge against this guy. Each of these underbosses have different personalities. They're very different people, and each can be given specific power over areas that you can capture throughout the game from the enemy mob bosses. So the underbosses are this pretty dynamic and fluid system where you're dealing with actual people that have different things, and it's kind of a tug and pull. And so we actually saw a section near the end of the demo where we didn't give an underboss what they wanted, and we actually had to hunt them down and kill them. It was very Godfather, which is pretty much what Mafia 2 was like, and I really, really enjoyed that segment. Definitely going to have some conflicts like that in the real game. And so they went on to show off a huge world map with 10 distinct districts set in a city called New Bordeaux, which is basically New Orleans during 1968. A very, very high conflict area with a ton of sex, drugs, and violence going on. And so they showed off the world a ton. It looked huge. It's a really, really big world. And also they went on a mission focused on taking down an enemy crime family's rackets. And by doing that, you can do it in several different ways. You can murder pimps that are trying to, basically corrupt the area with their sex and drugs and, just making money for the other people. That really hurts their operation. You could burn down drug boats, capture drug dens, and 10 other things. They listed all of those different things. It's a very super violent and mature game. That was definitely something that was, evident very early on in the demo. They had a huge epic set piece on a ferry where you were tracing down one of the really important kind of enemy mob boss guys, and the whole thing exploded into flames. It's really, really cool. I'm definitely going to share more of that with you guys on my extended video look, which should be kind of the next video, I guess tomorrow, something like that. But overall, I really appreciated the time period and the presentation of the game, and I know I'll be playing the hell out of it when it comes out. So Mafia 3 will be out on Xbox One, PS4, PC, and Mac, interestingly enough, on October 7th of 2016. So that's only a little over 3 months away from now. It's just right around the corner. So once again, those were just the games that I played and I'm really most excited to kind of get my hands on, but there were some more that didn't make my top 5. Here are some honorable mentions. First off, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild definitely won E3. Absolutely, no doubt. If you were there and you actually got to play the demo, it had the longest line and it was an incredible experience. They let you play for 35 minutes of this new game that doesn't even have a release date. It's coming out sometime next year. And so Legend of Zelda absolutely won the show. No contest, but I'm not the biggest Legend of Zelda fan because I just haven't played the games. I think I played Twilight Princess on Wii U. I'm not Wii U, but Wii, the original Wii. I don't even remember that much about it. And so it was definitely an incredible experience. I know that was definitely the game of the show for a lot of other people. I also enjoyed Ghost Recon Wildlands. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to play the demo, and when I did, it really kind of messed up, and so it kind of disrupted the flow. That probably would have made my top 5, but just the demo experience wasn't that great, and how long I had to wait kind of ruined that as well. I also saw Injustice 2, so you guys that like fighting games and comic books, Injustice 2 is incredible. Great animations, a ton of new cast of characters. There's a gear system going on with that game. I'll cover more of it on my channel very soon. And also, Horizon Zero Dawn was a very unique PlayStation exclusive game, and it's hard to describe. I'll just cover that in another video on my channel, but those were my honorable mentions. There were also some games that I absolutely wanted to play but didn't see, so I can't tell you, this was a great game, this was in my top 5, because I didn't either see them or play them. That was Batman VR. I've heard great things about the VR experience for Batman. That was kind of a surprise. Sea of Thieves is a huge game that I wanted to play. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get in there because the line was 2.5 hours long. It was insane. It looks like an incredible co-op game that I can see myself having a ton of fun with my friends. So Sea of Thieves definitely would have been in my top 5 had I played it. Detroit is another really interesting looking game. High fidelity graphics really takes advantage of Sony's PlayStation 4. That's a game I wanted to see but couldn't see. And then South Park. The new South Park game is incredible, so I've heard, but I didn't get to play it, so that probably would have been somewhere in my top 10 as well. Now I'd like to hear from you guys in the comments below. What are your top 5 games of E3 this year? Even if you weren't there, I'd like to hear your perspective, because it is kind of a different perspective, not actually playing the games, just seeing them through the conferences and the coverage on IGN, GameSpot, YouTube, and all of that. Let me know, what are your top 5 games you're looking forward to that came out of E3 and that were covered heavily at the conference. Alright guys, today I shared my favorite games from E3 2016 this year. Next time we'll cover Fallout on my channel, so stay tuned for Fallout 4 tips and tricks videos. If you learned something new or just enjoyed the video, remember to hit that like button. I would really appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe for more Fallout DLC coverage, my survival mode live streams, Bethesda.net mods, and general tips and tricks videos. Talk to you guys next time. Peace!